And welcome to another episode of Experts Speak. I'm Michael DeLon. Today, I am talking with Careyann Golliver. Wow, I can't talk. And Careyann, Careyann, first of all, thank you for being on my podcast. Thank you for squeezing me into your calendar.
Absolutely. My pleasure, Michael.
It's going to be a fun conversation. So Careyann is known as America's franchise matchmaker, and she's got a really fascinating story of how she got into this. I'm not going to tell it to you. I'm going to let Carrie tell it to you because she'll do a much better job. But we want to talk about this whole concept of franchising and how you could get into it and what are some of the benefits. But as we do that, Careyann, tell us, how in the world did you get to do what you do today?
Yes. Well, it is a story, right? Everyone seems to have their own story.
Yeah.
And my story is, probably not different than most, but, prior to becoming an entrepreneur, I spent most of my time in sales and marketing in startup companies, right? And I loved startup companies. I loved the energy and the vibe. And, we're creating something new from scratch. So we're going to nurture and grow and take out to the world. The frustrating things that I didn't like about startups was there was too many stops, Michael, if you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Start, stop, start, stop. And I didn't have the authority to make all the decisions, right? Because it wasn't my startup. And so in between those starts and stops, having dinner with friends and family, drinking some fine wine, eating some great food, having a conversation of, well, what do we want to do when we grow up, right? Which is probably not an uncommon conversation that people have. And so long story short, ended up starting a family business with my sister and my brother-in-law. Literally in the basement of their house, we started a handyman business.
Okay.
So it first started with my brother-in-law worked on swamp coolers. Are you familiar with swamp coolers, Michael?
I am not. What are swamp coolers?
Okay. Well, swamp coolers are known as poor man's air conditioning unit. Lots of them are in the Midwest where we don't have the humidity, and they sit on top of the buildings and use water to create cooler airflow.
Oh, interesting.
In the property. Yeah.
Okay.
And so he was fixing and repairing swamp coolers in the restaurant that he was working at that time. In fact, the house that they lived in at that time actually had a swamp cooler. My sister was pregnant with their very first child at that time. And so he said, I know, we can have a swamp cooling and repair fix-it business and call it Swamp Boy, right? True story. And so I looked at him, I'm like, all right, cut him off. Is that too much wine, right? But then we started talking more and more about it. So really, originally, the following Sunday, this is back in the late 90s when you still put an ad in the paper, right?
Yeah.
You put an ad in the paper, call Swamp Boy for your maintenance and repairs for your swamp cooler. And by golly, Michael, the phone started ringing. And, my brother-in-law is a very charismatic individual anyways, right? So the phone was ringing. My sister and I were dispatching him from the basement. He was going on the appointments. He was fixing and repairing people's swamp coolers, but he would come back to the basement and he's like, nobody wants me to leave. Everyone's like, oh, while you're here, can you work on this? Do you know anyone that does this? What about carpentry? What about drywall? And so we were like, that's really strange, right? And then we just kept doing our thing. And then really it just became like a commonality. And so what we decided was we need to, remember when they used to like throw the phone books on your driveway?
Oh, yeah. In the plastic. Yeah, absolutely.
Here's your new phone book, Kathunk, right?
Yeah.
So we picked up the white pages and we literally called over 360 people and said, do you have a handyman service? Would you like to pay for a handyman service? Would you use them? How often? What are the things that you'd be willing to pay for? And so our swamp cooling business morphed into a full-blown handyman business. And then obviously we needed more people because my brother-in-law was only one guy, right? So then we were interviewing craftsmen. They would come to the basement and we had this mock bathroom. Because really, if you think about it, a bathroom comprises of carpentry, drywall, plumbing, electrical, pretty much everything that we need, right? We would break something in the bathroom and then we'd say, okay, go fix what's broken in the bathroom. And obviously if they couldn't fix it, we didn't hire them, right? So we were feverishly hiring craftsmen. Pretty soon we get a knock on the door. The neighbors were irritated. They're like, we don't know what's going on over there, but they got cars and trucks and all kinds of stuff going on, and you need to go check it out. So the sheriff was like, your business is too big for the basement. You got to go take it somewhere else, right? Which was a good problem to have. And then we found a location, and then people that worked at the restaurant with my brother-in-law were like, what are you doing? We want to be a part of this. And so we just kept tweaking and massaging the model. And then we ended up building a multi-million-dollar business. And we were like, wow, this is pretty amazing, right? And then somebody came to us and said, you guys ought to think about franchising your business. And we were like, what's that all about? So we learned about franchising. We were like, how fascinating we could franchise our family basement business and help other people happily escape corporate America, build an asset that they own, create those important tax shelters for themselves, leave a legacy for their family or whatever they wanted to do, and have a built-in exit strategy. So we were like, yeah. So in the latter part of 2001, we franchised our business. And so, all this happened half-stakingly. I mean, none of it was really actually planned. We ended up being the top-rated national handyman franchise for 2 decades. We grew. I was the sales department. My sister was the CEO. The founder was, my brother-in-law. We grew and grew and grew. And 3 years ago, Ace Hardware acquired us.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was a very magical ride, but I will tell you, it is a challenge being in business with family, right? Especially if you like. And I was still like craving something that was my own identity. So in 2006, I started my franchise consulting business, because being on the franchisor side, what I quickly learned was, holy moly, there is a lot of people that are interested in franchising and, being the boss, being able to keep the majority of the margin, but way too many people leave it up to Google and friends and family to tell them which franchise to buy. And people don't really understand how to conduct proper due diligence on this type of investment. So I wanted my mission to really help educate. I like to say I like to work with the willing, right? And really give them a full education on the landscape of franchising, how this can truly be an investment vehicle that can drive your life financially from where you are today to where you want to go. So I started my consulting business in 2006. I've never looked back. I feel blessed every day that I'm literally changing people's lives.
That is so cool. I love that story. So many things there that we can just jump off of. But let's just from a layman's perspective, right? Because I'm on the outside looking at this franchise thing and all this stuff. Let's talk about franchises. So if somebody is out there, business owners out there, or some salesperson thinking about starting a business or something, some of the benefits of a franchise is there are lots of things already built in. How do they? You're right. I don't know of a company besides you, I guess, who that I could call and say, can you help me navigate this process? What are some of the pitfalls or challenges that people face? And what do you tell people who are just thinking about, wow, what is this world?
Yeah, so it can be very overwhelming, right? I mean, today in the United States alone, there's over 4,000 franchises. Anything is or could be a franchise, right? You think about it, you wake up, you go work out at the gym, it's a franchise. Yeah. You go to your favorite coffee or smoothie bar, that's a franchise. You have your clothes cleaned by the dry cleaner, it's a franchise, right? You take your dog to dog training, it's a franchise. So there's a lot more to franchising than French fries, right? A lot of people think Subway, McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, Chipotle, right? Yes, but anything is or could be a franchise. I mean, some of the just phenomenally scaling businesses are service-based, like our handyman business, right? Low investment, cash flow very quickly, just off and running in 30 to 60 days from the time that they decide to move forward. So when I work with people, they are, obviously you see the sign behind my head, remembering your why. So they need to have a compelling why they want to be a business owner, and they need to be able to communicate that to me, because if you don't know why you want to do this, you're really on a slow train to Nowheresville, in my opinion, right?
That's right.
So COVID forced all of us to really kind of self-reflect. Is what I'm doing filling my soul, or is it draining me? Right. And a lot of people got a taste of working from home and we're like, well, this is really awesome. I can now go to my son's soccer game and I can be more present in my family's life. I don't have to be a road warrior. I don't have to spend all that time on the windshield, burning through gas, being there for the man. Right. I can actually do something on my own. Or people love their job, and they want to diversify and build additional revenue streams, because I think it's really dangerous to put all your eggs in one basket. So I work with people and we do a self-discovery, and it's a ton of fun because I tell people, look, you are going to be completely selfish. You are not going to settle or compromise on a single thing because you don't need to. And for a long time, people have not been selfish, right? They've taken a lot of personal sacrifices, building wealth, renting out their time and talent to build wealth for somebody else who is showing them no loyalty. Right. So they're like, wow, I got to be selfish. Yes, you're going to be selfish. So it's a ton of fun. We talk about their skill sets, their strengths, their weaknesses, their spend tolerance, their expected ROI. We take a whole journey of what would be the ideal characteristics of an opportunity that would justify you doing some due diligence, because nobody has time to waste, right? So we want to be really laser focused. And we have, think of me as a connector. I'm obviously the America's Franchise Matchmaker, but I'm also a connector to some of the fastest growing, most successful franchises here in America that a lot of people will not find on their own, because franchise companies like to use me as a recruiter, right? And I'm a connector to funding companies that are going to be able to help them be educated on what they need to come to the table with. Smart business people use OPM, other people's money, right? So we want people to spend as little of their own money as possible and incur some smart debt. That could be a 401k rollover. You can borrow some of your rollover dollars or your IRA dollars to yourself, tax-free and penalty-free, to start your own business. You could do a stock portfolio loan. You could get an SBA loan. I mean, there's home equity lines. Most of my people last year were buying franchises doing home equity lines, period. Because SBA, the interest rates are crazy, but they're going to go down, right? And when they go down, then your rate goes down on your loan. So we focus on a self-discovery, and that helps me then identify and match them up to the very best franchises that are going to align with the majority of what they're looking to do and achieve, and as little of what they don't want. There's no perfect anything out there, right? But we can get pretty darn close. And then we stack them up. So they're going to look at maybe 3 or 4 different opportunities to stack up against each other and learn everything there is to know day in the life of owning one of these businesses before they spend any money or make any decisions. And by the way, I forgot to mention, Michael, my service is completely free. Nobody pays me for any of my services, because the franchise companies are going to give me a referral fee, much like a real estate agent, if I make that perfect match.
Really? See, now there you go. You should have dropped that a long time ago, because I'm sitting over here going, oh, this is crazy. That's amazing. Because here's what hit me as you were going through all of that is, franchises, when business owners, we're entrepreneurs, we're emotionally, we're just her. And I would be looking at franchises that excite me, right? Because I want to be in this one. I don't want to do landscaping because I'm not right now. Versus coming to you and let you do this self-discovery to go, oh no, Michael, you're a business owner. You're going to be the franchise owner. Here are the 2 or 3 that are really best match for your goals and objectives. Is that?
Yes. That's absolutely right. So people, I mean, look, you're going to be passionate, but you're going to be passionate about being a business owner. You're going to be passionate about being able to take back control, having the authority to make all the decisions. But your passions are your hobbies, and your hobbies should not be part of your business. Because what happens is, you follow your passion. You love coffee, so you buy a coffee shop. And it becomes a grind, and then you hate coffee and you ruin your passion for it. And it could be a disaster. So you're not going to be the worker bee. You are the owner, and they're going to train you and help you execute. The beautiful thing about a franchise business is it's a business in a box.
Yep.
The operations, the marketing, the technology, the training, the HR, the support, it's all in this pretty nice box with a bow. All you have to do is press go.
Yeah.
So it's speed to market. And let's face it, 90% of franchise businesses are successful for 10 plus years, where a non-franchise business almost never makes it to year 5 or 6, because they've spent all their money educating the community why they solve whatever problem they solve. And then when they finally get a customer that goes, okay, solve my problem, they're like, well, we can't, we're going out of business now, right? Yep. So franchising is a better way to go to be entrepreneurial light. You do not have to have any industry experience. I have put a ton of people in landscaping and restoration and plumbing and heating businesses, male, female, that had no industry experience, that went to the World Series with their franchise.
Yeah.
It's amazing, right?
Yeah.
You look at it, every business pretty much operates the same way.
Yeah.
So we take your strengths and your skill sets, we apply those roles to the right franchise, and that's really where the magic happens.
Yeah. Oh, that's fascinating, because that opens up a whole world. I'm sitting here thinking of a business owner who maybe started their business and they've been doing it 15, 20, 25 years, but they're getting tired. They're not ready to retire yet, but they're getting tired.
They're getting burnt out.
Yeah, burnt out. That's a great word. That's a great opportunity to reach out to Careyann and say, hey, here's my situation. And they can sell their business or whatever, or keep it, but they could re-energize themselves for the next 15, 20 years in a much faster, more proven way, really.
Yeah. And probably much higher ROI, right? I mean, again, I pride myself in working with some of the fastest growing, most successful franchises in America, and they're not taking 2 and 4 years to break even. Yeah. You know, I mean, it's lightning speed. That's because we're going back to the process, right? Process happens. They're going to tell you exactly what to do, when to do it, why you're doing what you're doing, how you're going to do what you're doing. And you press go and you're off to the races instead of trying to figure everything out. The marketing is already proven. Their job every day is to make sure you don't make the same mistakes they made when they were ironing out the wrinkles when they built their proven plan, right?
That's right.
So if you're talking to a franchise company and let's say you talk to 16 franchise owners who are really the barometer to tell you how strong the system is, and let's say 10 out of the 16 say, this is amazing, I'm happy, I'm making money, the support is fantastic, it's phenomenal, I'm going to buy more territories, you know, and they were given the same plan that you were given. Well, where's the risk in that, right?
Right.
Now, if those 6 people are not successful, it's because somehow they stopped following the recipe. They got off of the reservation, and that can happen because I think franchise business ownership attracts people who have that entrepreneurial spirit and flame and want to be a business owner, but they're like, oh, no, I'm going to rewrite the ops manual. I'm going to hire a marketing firm outside that knows nothing about this business, but it's going to be great. And no, it's not. You get off at the reservation, you're not going to be more successful than the proven plan. So people that can follow a process. Now, obviously there's rules, parameters, boundaries you have to play within, because this is a franchise. That's what franchising is all about, right?
That's right.
So whether the franchise is in Birmingham, Alabama, or in Boca, Florida, it has to have the same commonalities. That's what makes it a franchise and a recognizable brand. So as long as you can follow their recipe, there is no reason why you would not be wildly successful in a franchise. If you don't like following somebody else's rules, franchising is certainly not going to be for you. You're going to be then you need to go start your own thing, right?
Yep.
Which is not rocket science. I mean, look, we did it in the basement, right? Back in the day. So,
you can do it.
But it takes a lot longer and it costs a lot more.
Yeah.
And so I think people who, the beautiful thing is, again, with the franchise, you can do a franchise and that. You can keep your day job, keep your paycheck, mitigate your risks, buy a franchise that allows you to manage a manager who runs the day-to-day. But that's going to be that side gig that's going to be bringing in additional income to your family that you would not have if you just had your job.
That's right. No, that's fascinating. That's opening up lots of opportunities for people who, I think sometimes you look at franchises and you're like, yeah, I could never, the threshold is way too high. I don't know where to start. I don't know what I want to do. And that's where Careyann would come in, is to have that conversation, and she's free. That's amazing. I still think that's fascinating. But yeah, you function like a realtor. You get paid on the back end when you make the deal.
Yes.
That's awesome. So there's like no risk at all to connect with Careyann, have the conversation. How I mean, Careyann, if somebody's in my audience listening to this and they're like, okay, this is really fascinating, what's the next step for them? What do they do?
Yep. So the best thing to do is just go to my website. It's franchise hyphen, that's the dash, logic.com. So franchise hyphen logic.com. On that front page, you're going to see my calendar. Just book 15-minute initial discussion with me. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk about your situation. Let's see if it makes sense for us to work together. I have no idea if franchising is going to be right for you, but we won't know until we get going, right? And like you said, there's time involved, but there's no contract, there's no exclusivity, there's no fees you have to pay me. And I am a top performer. I mean, I just came back from my biannual conference in Fort Worth. We meet every January, every June, or every July. And I mean, I was the top consultant of our entire network. So, I mean, if you want to work with the best, schedule a 15-minute discussion with me. I am brutally honest. That's just how I roll. And, we will talk about your situation and see if it makes sense for us to embark on this journey. I mean, it's typically a 90-day journey from beginning to end, and you have to get approved, right? I mean, you can't just go buy Dunkin' Donuts because you love donuts. Darn it, right? Like, the franchisor has to believe that you're a solid match. You and your family have to believe you're a solid match. And so I jokingly, again, the matchmaker. So I jokingly say, look, we're gonna find you some franchise blind dates, right? And you're gonna go on these blind dates, and you're gonna have some courtship, and you may or may not get to the altar. But in all seriousness, I do say that because your franchise partner is literally your business partner every day, all the time. Their job is to get you to the World Series, because they can't continue to grow and expand without people like you to help them. And so it, at the end of the day, is really meant to be a profitable business marriage.
That's awesome. All right. Yeah. Careyann Golliver, America's franchise matchmaker. I love that. She works for free, folks. Reach out to her. Seriously, if you've ever thought of franchising, buying something, the next time you drive by and you see a restaurant popping up or a coffee shop popping up, ask yourself, is that a franchise? It probably is.
Yep.
And reach out to Careyann and just have that first 15-minute conversation and say, Careyann, here's my situation. What do you think? And in 15 minutes, I bet she's going to be able to say, hey, this is not good. Or, hey, no, we need a longer conversation, because there are some possibilities that you might not be seeing. Have the conversation. It's fascinating what you bring to the table, Careyann. I am so glad you came on Expert Speak, because I didn't know you existed. I didn't know people I thought you just had to call like Dunkin' Donuts and say, what do I do? So it's great to know that people like you exist. And I love the passion that you bring to what you do. You're here to help people make a difference in their lives, and really in the lives of the communities that they serve through this franchise opportunity. So Careyann, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure. Anytime.